You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind.
With the emergence of global internet, a human population of several billions, an electronic noosphere, that we are now within the shadow of this transcendental object at the end of time.
I find it a little difficult to say what the subject matter is going to be, because
Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Shake and bake, steps back, three-pointer, bang!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to a fine episode of the Midnight Variety Hour. I am always here and very happy to be here. I'm your host, one of your hosts, Tom, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and amazing man in the chair.
It's Kyle. No, it's your boy Adam.
And DJ Buck Naked and Kyle.
You'd have to listen to some Logic to get that, but anyways.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Speaking of Logic, just dropped the ASAP Ferg and Lil Wayne remix of Perfect. Yeah, it's pretty good. Listen to it in the car, yeah.
Haven't heard it.
Anyway, man, so how are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. We missed a week.
But which sucks
for a good reason.
Yeah, I always hate missing a week because I feel like this is like my one outlet to just talk about the stuff I want to talk about and kind of just like decompress and like get creative or just kind of like intellectually be stimulated or whatever you want to call it. But we missed a week because I was on vacation. Sorry if you're like just your week was ruined by not having Midnight Variety Hour. But I was in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is, if you didn't know, right across Tampa Bay from Tampa. And I was also at Treasure Island, which is right off the coast of Florida on the St. Pete side in the Gulf. And we had a huge fucking itinerary full of stuff. We ate at a lot of wild restaurants. We kayaked. We went fucking night kayaking in these like clear kayaks. We were out there and we went from like, I guess they call them like keys. So it was like a little chain of mangrove islands, and we kayaked out to like a sandbar beach at sunset, watched this wild sunset, just like looked at all the fish swimming underneath us in this clear kayak. It had like lights in the bottom. So after the sun went down, it was nighttime, and we're just like kayaking through this key in Florida, and you're just watching all these fish swim under your kayak. It was fucking crazy.
Sounds amazing.
And St. Pete isn't a city that I've ever been to. Like I've been to Tampa. I had a family reunion there a couple years ago, but I never really went to St. Pete. I like St. Pete drastically more than Tampa. St. Pete is a very cool city. It's very artistically driven. Lots of really cool art museums, like Dale Chihuly, who is the most world-renowned glass artist of all time, has a huge collection there I would have never guessed. Salvador Dalí, one of the biggest artists of the 1900s, one of the greatest artists that I've ever, seen the works of in person. He has a huge museum there. And I was really surprised. I didn't know that St. Pete had like a huge art presence. So I feel like today is kind of a good day to talk about art, because I know art is something that I'm interested in. I feel like you're really interested in it. I know that you recently kind of had a newfound love for painting. I've seen some of your paintings. I think you're actually pretty good. I know that you've had a history with enjoying drawing. So you'd say that you enjoy art, and you've always kind of had a thing for art, right?
Yeah, I started sketching just
Jesus, I'm glad the camera wasn't on me, because I just had a hole in my lip fucking doing the rest of this show soaked. All right, go ahead.
Do you want to grab a napkin real quick? You can if you want.
No, it's just water. It's just water. I'm going to dry off.
But I started sketching with a good friend of mine in elementary school, probably first grade. The first time I started sketching, and it was like Dragon Ball Z characters.
Yeah.
I started just like...
I think everyone started off drawing like their favorite anime shit.
Yeah, man. And it like started off with just like tracing them, just tracing, outlining and stuff.
Yeah.
And then slowly started doing it myself.
Yeah.
And I got really into it. Like, I would just draw like every day, like while I was in class, or like waiting to go to class or something like that. So yeah, ever since then I had a passion for sketching. I never got into the colors though.
Right.
It was always just pencil sketching.
Right.
And then pen sketching and some things like that. But like,
I
just recently like got into color, because like I was like, oh, color. I don't feel like coloring in the lines.
Right.
I felt like it was like kiddish or childish, but like I didn't realize like how like amazing like the stuff you can do with colors.
Dude.
When I started painting myself, and I was like, this is amazing.
That's like another art in and of itself. It's like, all right, if you can draw, that's already amazing. But then if you can properly color your shit and like make it, like once you master color shading and stuff like that, that's a whole nother realm.
Oh yeah.
I can't draw. I can't do any of that shit. I can't paint. I've done like a few paint and sip classes where if someone's walking me through it step by step, I can paint something halfway decent.
Right.
But I don't know what it is. It's like one thing I really wish, if I could like change something about myself, or like if I could pick up a new talent, I really wish I could make art. You know, I wish I could draw, or I wish I could paint. And obviously, like, you can learn to do this stuff. I just haven't put the time into it. But yeah, man, I've seen some of the stuff that you've made. I know you painted Bob Marley one time. Mm-hmm. Damn, I wish we had a picture of it. But it was so good. Mm-hmm. And I think you took a painting class in college, right? And you just took that like spur of the moment. You were like, fuck it, I'm gonna take a painting class.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I felt like it was one of my last few semesters, and then I was like, I really wanted to do something I love to do that would just be really fun, and I could take advantage of being in college while I am and do a class like that. So I took art appreciation, I took art history, and I took a painting class, all in like a matter of like a semester or two.
Nice.
And I was like, I just want to get into it and just see what it's all about. The art history class was like a lot of stuff I already knew, because I love to just do research on my own. So I was like, half the time it was me just like questioning the teacher about stuff she probably didn't know.
Right.
I felt like almost like the smartest kid in the class. And like, not smart, but just like knowledgeable about a lot of those topics that were just the bare minimum of like, here's the artwork of like, here's the stales or the carvings that the Sumerians did. And this time I was like, okay, well, that's the most obvious basic carving. Like, everyone knows that. Like, come on now, let's get to the deeper stuff. Like, I don't know, because it was just very like ground level work. And so I wanted to go deeper into that. So eventually I might take some more like deeper, like very focused classes, like probably focused on like very specific time periods and stuff like that. I would probably enjoy more. Yeah,
I think like I wouldn't say my biggest regret from college, but if I could go to college again, I think the number one thing I would change is I really wish I took more classes that were just like purely for like intellectual stimulation. Like, not just, okay, like let me grind out everything for my major. I wish I just took classes that I was interested in. Like, I obviously have no intent to ever have a career in art or make money off of art, but I wish I took maybe some art classes or maybe some history classes on like time periods that I was really interested in.
Yeah.
So like, I know one time I took a class that was purely just the history of World War II in the European theater.
Nice.
It was like one of my favorite classes.
Yeah, dude.
And then I also took world history prior to the year 1500. And it was like everything from 1500 back to like fucking Mesopotamia and like ancient Sumeria and stuff like that.
I took a class like that too.
And that was like one of the best classes. And then I also took I took like 3 classes that I really loved. I also took contemporary moral issues. And we just like sat around and debated like, okay, well, here's what Kant would say about this. And
to me, those are like the golden, like, to me, that's where you learn more about like yourself and others. And you can really like critically think, and instead of just getting like programmed by the teacher and like PowerPoint by PowerPoint, you know what I mean? Like,
you're like actually really like turning your brain on and like digging deep. And so I wish I could take more like that. But art is something I really wish I did. Yeah. And actually what you were saying about asking the teacher stuff and like going beyond stuff the teacher probably even knew reminded me of something I read about Salvador Dalí when I was at the museum. He actually got kicked out of art school for like challenging his teachers and saying I forgot, it was one of the Renaissance artists that he like claimed to know more about than, I think it was Raphael. He like just refused to back down. And he's like, I'm not learning from you if I know more than you about like, he just like claimed to know more about the Renaissance artists and things like that. So I thought that was so crazy. He was such a wild guy. And so like Houston is a relatively great city, museum-wise and art-wise, and you can see a lot of great art here. So I had seen a few Salvador Dalí paintings here in Houston. I don't know if you've been there yet, but the Museum of Fine Arts has a new building, the Garner Building.
I have not been to the new building.
Okay, if you go to the Garner Building, first of all, architecturally, it's beautiful.
It looks
like
crazy.
It's amazing on the inside, especially if you go at nighttime. The way it's lit is amazing. But they've moved a lot of like really nice artists and like artworks in there, I guess because they're trying to draw people to come see this new building. So there's like one room, and in this one room they have Rothko, Pollock, Picasso, Dali. Like, they have just a bunch of amazing artists all crammed into one room. So I guess they're like, oh, try and come see this stuff. Well, it was in that building. It was the first time I ever saw a Dali painting in person. And so I was in St. Pete, and we were like looking for stuff to do. And so I was there with my girlfriend and her sister's boyfriend and my girlfriend's dad. And so like they were going to go get their nails done, and we needed something for the guys to go do while they had this like long ass nail appointment. So we were just looking at stuff to do in St. Pete. And I was like, oh shit, Salvador Dalí has a museum here that's so random. He's from Spain. He probably never went to St. Petersburg in his life. In fact, I'm like 99.9% sure he never, he died in 1989 before the museum was even there. Yeah. So I was like, well, let's do that, because I've seen his stuff before. I find him interesting. And I knew a bit about him just because I have like a baseline knowledge of artists. I knew he was part of the Surrealist movement. I kind of knew like what he was about. And then everyone knows his like fucking iconic mustache.
Oh, yeah.
The like two little thin strings all the way swept up.
Yeah.
So we went to this museum, and you walk in and there's this huge gift shop, and they're selling like things like memorabilia, like harkening back to some of his paintings, like the melting clock and stuff. Like you could buy a melting clock to put on your desk, shit like that. So I walked through there and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. Then you go upstairs, and upstairs is where all the art is. And so like you walk up this winding staircase, and when the stairs stop, the banister for the staircase still continues like spiraling up to the ceiling. Like it's really weird. It looks like this staircase shouldn't exist. Like it was very interesting. And then you walk in and you like read about him as you go in, and you start to see his art, and it starts with the shit he was painting when he was 10. And he was just painting on like burlap canvas, just like really like crude, rough canvases. And he's 10, but he's painting these like beautiful, like, so he lived in Spain and he was really inspired by where he lived. And so he's painting like the Spanish seaside in remarkable detail, like at 10. Like you could just tell he was one of these dudes that was just, like he was just like blessed. Like he had the gift or whatever.
Sure.
And then you kind of like watch him grow, and he starts working with oil more. But then it gets to the 20s and the 30s, and you get to his Surrealist movement. And Surrealism, I don't know if like people know much about the Surrealist movement. I only really learned about it at this museum, and I still don't even know a lot. But during the late 20s and the 30s, around the time of the Great Depression, there was a movement of artists and writers and poets. In fact, it was mainly writers in the beginning, and they were obsessed with surrealism. Not just like, you know, I feel like now the word surreal is overused. Like anytime you see something weird, you're like, oh, dude, that's so surreal. But I mean, they really got into like the dreamlike state of your unconscious. And Dali became fascinated with the unconscious mind after reading the works of Sigmund Freud, who we talked about with Sosa not too long ago. I know we didn't really get into Freud, but we brought him up a little bit.
Yeah.
He became fascinated with the unconscious mind, and the fact that, like, I forgot what the percentage is, but like the majority of your, like the part of your brain that does the thinking and like your thoughts, it's such a small sliver of your brain.
Yeah, it's like 2%.
Yeah, the majority of your brain is just like the unconscious, and it's extremely powerful, and it's extremely imaginative, and so he just became obsessed with it, and he started painting like dreamscapes. He got obsessed with understanding his dreams. He got obsessed with things like that. And so he has all these insane paintings that have insane names, but they're like, I don't know, they're so weird. It's like you see things in these paintings of his, and they're like, damn, I've had a dream where stuff like that is in there. You know, like weird things like lines bending where they shouldn't bend, or like structures being formed in a way that like shouldn't make any sense. And I just like was walking through this museum, and I'm like, God damn, like this dude was just amazing. I don't know how I never got into him before. And so in 1939, he actually got kicked out of the Surrealist movement because the other guys in the Surrealist movement, so the Surrealist movement really got started after like World War I. And as the world started moving into World War II, the majority of the people in the Surrealist movement became very obsessed with politics. And they became very obsessed with being like communist sympathizers. And Dali refused to be political. He's like, I just want to make art. I just want to challenge people's minds. I want to stimulate people's minds. I want to make people like dive into their own minds. And I refuse to become consumed by politics or to like spout stupid party rhetoric. And they kicked him out. And I just like, I don't know, that makes me love him a lot. It makes him like, he's already become one of my favorite artists just because of like how much of a free thinker he was. And so then from there he went on to what they called his nuclear mystic phase. So like the atom of the era of the atom was like quickly approaching, and like science and nuclear energy were taking off, and he was really inspired by that. So he started working in concepts of science and concepts of religion in together. So he'll have like he'll like paint a giant picture on a canvas 12 feet by 15 feet huge of like angels arguing in heaven, but then like also like the atom structure for like radium just like in the middle of it, like shit that is so insane, like such. Or like he'll do paintings of Christopher Columbus pulling his boat onto the shores of America, but then like just like weird science shit mixed in, like hexagons and shit mixed. So
Right.
it was just very crazy.
Yeah, and he was also one of the few people to like to paint in that Renaissance style with the oils and
Yeah.
and it looked very like vintage style, but then throw in some random new shit that throw it on top that would just look like that doesn't belong. Like what is what? You don't know what year it was made or what style it was made. It was just crazy.
Beautiful, beautiful Renaissance style oil paintings with just insane modern concepts mixed in, and it looks like someone started painting in 1500 and then got in a time machine and finished the painting. And then it's so interesting.
Also, in that time period when he was doing the nuclear mystic phase or whatever, that was at the time he painted the new man or whatever coming out of like the world.
Yes.
Because that was that was like a beautiful painting. Like to me there was so many ways you can interpret that.
Yeah.
But it really like tells that of the time that we were living in that time, because it was like this. It was a completely new way of looking at the world.
Yeah.
Everyone was looking at the world from a different lens that they had never looked at it before, and it was just a crazy image. Yeah, it's insane.
And he was just like I just feel like he was just a good person. Like he really just cared about people challenging themselves and understanding more about the unconscious side of their brain and the power that lives within that part of their brain. And, you know, he was obsessed with his wife. She was like his muse. A lot of paintings, if you see an angel in one of his paintings, it has her face.
Yeah.
She died in 1982, and after that, he sort of just lost his will to live. He stopped really taking care of himself. His health declined. I think he picked up some sort of chronic disease, like he got cancer or something like that. And then he was in an electrical fire, and it really like fucked his body up. And then after that, he just kind of like let himself die. He died a few years after she did in the 80s. And yeah, I mean, he was just like so self-possessed with life and being in love and like the human mind. And I just thought he was a great guy. So I just wanted to like come on here and say, if you ever find yourself in St. Petersburg, Florida, go to the Salvador Dalí Museum. It'll change your life. He was great. And if you don't have any plans to go there, still just like read about him. I love just reading about artists and what they're about.
Yeah.
And like I know one of the you were talking about one of your favorite artists. You said, what was his name again?
Caravaggio.
Yeah, Caravaggio. I don't really know much of his work. Yeah. But I wanted to like have you tell me about him.
Well, like so obviously the paintings are incredible, which you can pull up some of his if you want real quick while I'm talking. And the paintings alone will just blow you away and transport you to another world or dimension when you look at them. And this goes for pretty much every artist who stands out in their own class, in their own tier. Yeah. And he's definitely one of those guys. Caravaggio is one of those guys. But it's also the story behind them. Once you understand like who they were as a person, obviously of him.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some of these before.
Oh no, I was telling you, pulled up some of. Sorry. Or I was telling you, pulled up some of the paintings you saw while you were in Florida.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But
for sure.
But it's like once you understand the story behind these characters, like you see, it makes the images in the paintings just come to life even more, because you realize all the little things that made them who they were, and you see it in the painting. You're like, oh, that makes so much more sense when I see it, and then you appreciate it like times 10, you know. And that's why you have classes like art appreciation, because once you understand the behind the scenes of everything, why art went this way, why it was taking these kind of turns, why they were using these materials and the imagery and all these things, and you're like, wow, everything just turns on. You just become like engulfed in it all, and it's incredible.
It's really powerful too. Like while we were at the museum, there would be a few times where like there would be a painting and you couldn't see it until like you turned a corner, and you would turn that corner, and then you'd be greeted by like this fucking 12-foot by 15-foot canvas, and like your jaw would actually drop. Yeah, like there's like just a powerful emotional connection we have to it.
For sure.
So here's one of his paintings of the Last Supper. And I mean, think of like any oil painting you've seen of the Last Supper before, and then look at this. Like, this is insane.
Yeah, they're like inside of a geometric shape.
Yeah, like look at this.
Body transcending.
Like, it's so supernatural, but also so like weirdly scientific and geometric.
It's got actual like a mountains in the background instead of like a wall or something, so it's like actually in nature with clouds and a sunset kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is insane. So like this is some of his nuclear mystic stuff.
Oh yeah, that's one of the most famous ones in the middle, like kind of that middle top one.
Yeah, this here?
Yeah, that's one of the classic ones.
I don't know how well this is coming through on the video, because I know this is like not that big of an image. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. This is crazy. Look at the shapes being formed here. You know, I mean, you've got so much stuff going on here and depicted here, war and conflict, and like here's an angel up here. It just,
I mean, when you look at them, it feels like you're dreaming as you're looking at it, right? Like it just puts you into a dream state as you look at it. It's
right.
insane.
So this is, dude, look at this. Oh, this is too small.
Like the sun coming out of an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love this one.
Yeah.
I love this one. I remember this.
I mean,
this is Mother Mary with Jesus.
Yeah, and like it strips away everything you would think of when you think of a picture of like Mother Mary and Jesus, you know.
Yeah.
So that's some of his nuclear mysticism, but what I really want to show is his surrealism paintings, because they are fucking nuts, dude, and they have insane names. So here's like one of his classics with the melting clocks.
Yeah, this is one of the all-time, probably top 5
Right.
most known paintings of all time.
I mean, this is like some straight up Alice in Wonderland shit, you know?
And purely because of how novel it is.
Right. Let's see. Let's find it. Yeah, so novel, so fucking unique. Let's find another one. Look at this.
Oh, yeah, I like this one too.
Like what?
I was
Yeah.
actually going to paint this.
Oh,
I was going
really?
to try to. Or actually, it might not have been this one, but it was a similar one, because he did a lot of these animals with
Right.
like these stick legs.
Right.
They're so weird and trippy, dude. Like it's like nightmare, dude. Like it's something you wouldn't
Yeah.
see in your worst nightmare.
Oh, dude,
man.
he has some crazy nightmare fuel stuff. He
Yeah,
has this
dude.
one where this woman's body is like being pulled apart.
Yeah.
But here it is.
It's like melting.
So it's like this body of a woman, but it's like melting and being pulled apart by this tree branch, but it's also melting down into like this fiddle. And then you have like a fucking horse coming out of a cannon, and there's like this melting angel, and then you have like this little creature is down here.
so crazy.
Like what
dude.
even is this? What was even going on in his head?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Another thing about this style is it doesn't look like anything is like really in place. Like even the tree, when its roots, it looks like the tree is almost like floating.
Right.
Like and it may seem like that's kind of like it's a weird abstract thing to do, but it's like it makes everything almost look like it's like it has no structure. Like everything
Right.
is just like almost placed on top of everything
Yeah.
else. You know what I mean? It's like it's really weird to do, and it makes everything look weird, and it puts everything out of place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it messes with your mind when you look at it.
And it's so weird to think that the same guy that painted this painted those like oil paintings with
those
angels and stuff.
Renaissance type ones, yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, that's some
Crazy,
stuff
dude.
from Dali. And if you guys don't really know about him, or if you're curious after listening to this, I highly encourage you to just like dive deep into the shit that he's done.
Yeah, man.
Because I mean, going to that museum was an experience I probably will never forget. So
Yeah, and so Caravaggio was another one of those guys for me. Was like really changed my perspective on art and on so
he was like 1600s, 15 or 16?
1500s, yeah, 1500s.
Okay.
Like the Renaissance, like he's one of the Renaissance painters of that time. You know, like he was painting for the Pope. He was commissioned by the Pope several times to paint religious, scenes from the Bible and stuff.
Yeah.
But his story alone was just freaking mind-boggling. I'm really surprised there hasn't been a movie or TV show made about him, and he should be more well known than what he is, because we all know the classic guys, the
Michelangelo, Raphael, yeah.
We know those guys, but like Caravaggio stands out on his own because he was such an individual, like in a rebel, dude. Like he was like the only person I can compare him to, like modern day, like artists, like a Tupac or a Biggie, because he was just like a gangster, dude, like a straight up gangster. Like he hung out with the hookers. He like loved hookers more than anything in life. He would get into sword fights all the time. He had over 15,000 court documents they found on him because he was just in trouble all the time.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, just a complete rebel, didn't care about anything. There was like this one story of like a priest coming up to him and he was like trying to like bless him with holy water, and he was like, "This will cure all of your what do you call it, like venial sins?" What is that term they say in the Catholic Church? Venial, I think it's called.
Yeah.
It's like it's a way of describing a certain type of sins, and he was like, "Oh, never mind then. All my sins are mortal." Like shit, like he would say shit like that. You were just like, "Whoa, okay." He's like outside. He stood outside of the time where he was in, but he's obviously in Italy. He was actually born in Caravaggio as a city, and so his real name is actually Michelangelo or Michel, something like that. Something to M. It's not his actual real name. It's a nickname. Caravaggio is actually his nickname, but he was.
I'm gonna look that up.
He was born in that time period, that 1500s, dude. That's whenever it was like plagues.
Right.
He was born during a plague where Milan was like 10th of their population was wiped out during a plague.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then that was obviously a lot of the times where they were doing like crucifying people in the streets, like every weekend. Like imagine every weekend like going outside and there's another. All right, here we're setting up. Here's a murderer, a rapist, and somebody else, and we're murdering them all, hanging them all today.
Right.
People would gather around and watch it like it was a show. Just a weird time to be alive, right? And then, like, you know, there's a ton of crime and violence going all around. Like, you know what I mean? Like sword fighting was like the thing to do.
Right.
Like it was just a weird time to be alive, and so that really portrays in a lot of his paintings. It's the best way I've heard it described is like it's like if Quentin Tarantino, decided to paint biblical scenes. Yeah. That's how his painting is: bloody, gory, a lot of like skin showing, like sexual type, like skin showing, which was like completely against the church. Everything the church stood for. They were so strict about everything. That was a time where like they were setting up screens in the churches to like block men and women from looking at each other because that's the first step to sin.
Oh my God!
You know, it was like that type of strict. Like we don't. It's completely outside of our realm of.
Fuck it, I'm just gonna paint.
Yeah, he was just like, no, fuck all that.
Titties out. Everything.
Yeah, and he was like constantly getting into brawls and fights all the time. Like he would literally go seek out fights. He would just go around the streets and be like, who wants to fight? Like, what's up? Like, like just a straight up gangster dude. Like, he's crazy, man. He was literally crazy, dude. And
that's my favorite thing about like hearing about like olden time shit. Like just the idea of like famous figures in a sword fight. Yeah. Like the idea of him, a Renaissance artist, just getting into a fucking sword fight on a Wednesday afternoon.
Just for the fun of it, man.
He could have died a million times.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Like,
for sure, dude. Yeah, I mean, easily. So it's like.
You think he killed anybody?
No, so that's what I was going to get to. He, what ended up like ending his kind of career was he got caught killing somebody. Like he got into a sword fight, ended up killing this guy. I think he was like about to chop off his balls or something, but ended up like slicing his throat instead because he said something. He like said something to him. Like it's like one of those probably scenes in a movie where they were like you had the guy like you're about to kill him, but then he says something smart and you're like, all right, well you're dead for real. And like boom, you know what I mean? Like bust him. Like it's probably one of those things, you know. And then and so he had to go on a run. He was sentenced to death. He went on a run. He went on the run for like years, but he had so many friends up in high places. Because obviously he was commissioned by the Pope and all of these, and those are like
I'm surprised the Pope was commissioning someone who was so like
so that's another thing is those paintings, a lot of them got rejected. Like majority of the paintings he did for the Pope when he got commissioned, they're like, all right, paint Mother Mary. Okay, what would he do? He gets a prostitute or a hooker, uses her as a model for Mother Mary, paints her, shows cleavage, shows skin like on the shoulders. And then shows baby Jesus butt naked, like stomping on a serpent or something. Like, like it just like completely out of anything anyone was painting at that time. And so like a lot of them got rejected by the Pope or the papacy or whoever was in charge of judging the paintings at that time. They were like, sorry, this can't work. We need a new one. You know what I mean? So it was like a lot of that going on. And then, but yeah, he ended up having to go on the run for murdering somebody, and ended up
fucking crazy.
He ended up dying because of. He got like betrayed by some people. Like he was gonna try to do like a bargain deal with like some pirates or something, and like I guess he was gonna hop on the ship and they're gonna take him somewhere, but they ended up betraying him and like killing him or something. I forgot exactly how it happened, but it was something like that.
They probably like wanted a ransom for him or something. They like
I don't know what
collect a bounty on it. Wow.
What it was, but it was like he had this insane story, man, that just blew my mind, like of stuff like that, But so going to his paintings, he basically invented a style called like chiaroscuro, I think it's called chiaroscuro, and it's basically this use of like shadow and light. So whenever you look at a lot of his paintings, you'll see these like black, like dark shadows that are blacker than black, like blacker than you can imagine a shadow, like that type of darkness. Yeah. And so like the figures in the painting like stand out like way more than what they normally would.
I'm looking at some of his stuff now, and honestly, it's pretty striking using that style of painting. Yeah, like I'm just gonna pull up one now. This painting right here of this bearded. I mean, like, dude, look how this guy just stands out against the dark background. You know?
Yeah, dude, and so also during that time period,
that's crazy.
Whenever he was had a sentence out on his death, he was known for painting himself a lot in his paintings, like in the back scenes, and while he was being sentenced to death on the run, he was painting himself at like being chopped, like his head being chopped off. Right. Like literally someone like taking his head, chopping it off. I'm sure you can find him, and just like blood going everywhere. He has like a famous painting of Medusa with her head being chopped off in the famous like Greek mythology with like just blood everywhere. Like just super crazy shit, man. It was wild stuff. But yeah, that's Caravaggio in a nutshell, man. And I first heard about him listening to Daniele Bolelli's podcast, History on Fire, and he has a 2-part series on him.
Just on him?
Yeah,
oh,
he goes
shit.
in depth like on Caravaggio, and it's an incredible series. And you can still listen to that on Apple Podcasts and stuff.
Shout out to former guest
Daniele, man, go listen to that episode if y'all haven't heard that. Love that guy so much, and he's obviously Italian native, so he had a fascination for him too.
Sure.
And yeah, man, so that was really my introduction into like Renaissance painting was him. Like I didn't look into painting that much before I heard about Caravaggio, because that was like such a rebel. I love anyone who's like that rebel kind of like figure, and not because they're like a good or bad person, just because they stand out in history. Like they're just like this individual that completely stands out among anyone else of that time period. You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, so that's same with like kind of with Dali too. So yeah.
Would you say, is that like your favorite period of art, you think, Renaissance?
I wouldn't say necessarily favorite. I would just say he's my favorite artist.
Okay.
But that style, the style of painting like that, I don't think anyone's doing that today. I'm sure there's some people trying to do it.
Yeah.
But the way they would do it in that time, the way like I don't know if you know like the details of it, but they would like throw layer after layer after layer after layer of paint, where it would take like some of those paintings would take years to do because of how detailed the amount of layering you would need to create those type of colors and to create those type of atmospheres on those canvas, because it just takes that much time. And when they start to do, they have like detailed like analysis on like some of those Renaissance paintings from way back in the day, and like even like drawing a blank on the name, Mona Lisa painting, and they try to like, have you seen like the scientific like instruments they use to try and detail? Like there's some crazy stuff. They start finding out like how much work actually went into those paintings, and they start to like dissect each layer and all those things, and like it's just insane. But like no one's doing stuff like that today, you know?
I mean, there might be a few, but I mean, just these oil paintings that sometimes achieve like almost a photorealistic.
Yes.
Fuck, there's this one artist, he lives in New Mexico, and he like pretty much primarily just paints like Western scenes with like, you know, he'll oftentimes have like a cowboy or a Native American against like some sort of insane background. He might be the only person that is like still achieving oil painting photorealism. Obviously, I don't know every artist out there. There's probably multiple.
There's definitely people out there, but it's probably such a rare, small amount, just purely based on how much work and knowledge it takes to do something like that.
I gotta pull this up.
Yeah.
Mark Migliori.
So
look at, so if you can pull this up.
Yeah, it's up here.
Like, bro, look at.
Like, yeah, dude, I love the clouds.
Yeah, I mean, look at that shit. I mean, this is almost like beyond photorealism. You know, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I
fucking striking, a mastering of color.
Just look at the butt of that horse, like the way that the light hits it, the shadow.
Definition of the muscles in the horse. Let me see, like. Anyway, so I mean, there's always going to be amazing artists out there. There's always going to be people that are achieving remarkable things in art.
Oh yeah, man.
But what a time! Renaissance art is amazing, and thankfully, like, there's a good amount here in Houston that we can go see. Personally, so obviously, I have nothing against Renaissance art, but I really love modern art. Primarily, I'm really into art from the 20th century. I love 1900s art. I love guys like Jean-Michel Basquiat is probably my favorite artist of all time.
Basquiat's fucking awesome, dude. He another one of those guys who stand out in that time period because of just how unique and interesting that guy was.
Right. Keith Haring is another guy that I have Haring and Basquiat art tattooed on my body. I really love Mark Rothko. I love Jackson Pollock. You know, I just feel like the 1900s were an amazing time for innovation and creativity in art.
For sure.
And it's probably my favorite period. Whenever I go down to the museum district, I'm usually, although I'm like just amazed by history and like the history behind the older stuff in the Museum of Fine Arts, I think I always enjoy the contemporary art side more, just because that's what I personally enjoy. We should go down there sometime together. Like, it'd be fun to go to the art museum. It's a little expensive, like just for like a casual thing, but it's free on Thursdays.
Yeah.
So some Thursday, if you're free, we should go.
Yeah,
could do a podcast
I
on
definitely
that.
have to see the new building.
The
Would
Garner
love to
building,
see that.
so
But
good, man.
the best museum I've ever been to was the Fine Arts Museum in D.C. I forgot what it was
Oh,
called.
man, I've never
I don't know if
been.
it had a specific name to it, but it's free all the time to go to. And
Like you can just walk in there anytime. It's free.
majority of the
Oh,
museums
shit.
there in D.C. are all free.
Holy.
Because that's just how they have it set up. That's just the way.
What about the Smithsonian? You
I don't
gotta-
know. I don't know if I did went to the Smithsonian,
Okay.
but I went to like 3 art museums, all free.
Yeah.
Went to a couple other museums, a history museum, free. I mean, it's free to go see the Declaration of Independence and all that stuff. It's all free.
Yeah, the National Library or whatever. Yeah.
And so it's really awesome. And that's where I got to see, like, dude, so the paintings they have in there, man, are like top of the line, insane, bro. Just walking through one little room, like, and there's obviously tons of rooms. Just one of those rooms will blow your freaking mind, man. If anyone ever has a chance to go to DC and go to that museum, the first time I saw some of those the Renaissance painters, they have pretty much all of them there. They have a ton of Van Gogh. They have one room dedicated to Van Gogh. All of it was incredible. Yeah, man, it's just it's in a building that's like all marble.
Right.
It's like one of those buildings that's like, you just walk into it. Doesn't matter what's in there. It's like incredible freaking building.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful tile.
Like the
marble,
building
everything.
itself is art. you
Yeah,
know?
the building itself is just it takes you back to this ancient architecture,
Right.
and it was just gorgeous. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy to think about, like, so you think about all the amazing shit that's in the museum here in Houston and like all the amazing stuff we have here. Then think about all the amazing stuff there is in DC, then New York, Los Angeles. Like, think about all of the major cities around the world that have amazing museums. Isn't it crazy that there's that much shit to fill all these?
Yeah.
Like, you can walk into almost any museum in any major city in the world, and
Yeah.
you'll be fucking like on the floor, jaw
Oh, yeah.
dropped.
I
Like,
just remember they also have a lot of the paintings of the presidents there. A lot of their
their official portraits.
yeah,
and
their
stuff.
official portrait. They have Obama's portrait. They
Dude,
have
I
Clinton's
love
portrait,
his portrait.
and some
I-
other stuff. It was really cool.
I think
to see.
Obama has the best portrait of.
Yeah.
It's so different than everyone else's.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
But I just feel like, you know, if my jaw is already on the floor just walking into the Museum of Fine Arts here in Houston,
Yeah.
I don't think I could handle like the Louvre in Paris.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
No, man.
Like,
I'm
what the
definitely gonna
fuck?
see
Or
that.
like going to
Just going to the Vatican, dude.
Clarissa went to Spain and she went to a Van Gogh museum
Yeah.
in Spain, and she said it was just like unfucking real. You know?
Yeah.
So I mean, I can't even imagine. It's just, I think it's a testament to just really how amazing humans are. The fact that we have such a rich history of shit to enjoy, and then there's people right now still making art that is fucking amazing. And I didn't even know, like, just getting back to like being blown away at museums, I didn't know Dali also sculpted. Out, if you go outside of his museum, he has a whole sculpture garden, and it's just like, so not even paintings, we have amazing sculptures to enjoy. I look at these paintings, I can't even believe that humans can do that shit.
Yeah.
But then just to think that there's countless museums filled to the fucking brim. Like, you know, not even just the Museum of Fine Arts here. There's also the Manil collection, which is free all the time. There's Van Goghs in there. There's Andy Warhols in there. They have Picasso inside of just this free museum in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, and that's really thankful to these ultra rich people who.
Yeah, thank you,
literally,
rich people.
They just there's a ton of that all around the country.
These art like these rich families that
Yeah.
just have insane art collections.
and then they're just like, oh, I don't have any room to put it in my house anymore. What am I going to do with it? Oh,
Yeah.
just set up an art museum.
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
the hell? So thank you to all those guys, but you know, it's a crazy thing.
I can't imagine having art like that in my home.
Yeah.
Like I was reading a little while ago about Basquiat, and he actually became, I think, the 8th. He had a painting sell for $110.5 million, which made it the 8th, like highest earning painting of all time. And it's just in this guy's house, this gigantic $110 million. I just can't imagine, like, you're just like in your dining room and there's a $100 million piece of art
Yeah,
just
dude.
sitting there. And so I'm like so blown away by the shit I see in museums. I cannot imagine for a second having any of that shit in my house.
Dude, funny story. I just heard a couple weekends ago. I think we were talking about Deshaun Watson and like and Tony Buzzy came up because he's representing the women and stuff.
Yeah.
And some of my friends are lawyers, you know, and they're talking about a story that Tony Busby, like this famous story, not famous story, I guess a story known among the other lawyers in that kind of community and world, like where he had a girl over one time. And sorry to put his dirty laundry out here like that, but who cares? He's fucking rich. and he had a Picasso painting in his house, and supposedly this girl was there, and like I don't know if he was like trying to have sex with her or what, and she was like trying to get away and like run and was like kind of pissed off or something, like trying to get out of there. and she ended up like throwing like a glass of wine, like full of wine, at his Picasso painting and like fucking it up. And yeah, dude, it was a pretty funny story. I was
Holy
like, damn, can you
shit.
imagine, bro? Like this girl just destroying your artwork.
I mean, good.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, if he
He
deserved
probably
it,
deserved it. He's probably
fucking scumball.
Yeah, he's probably a scum.
Damn. Fuck. Just imagine having that shit in your house.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, I was at the Manil collection like a year ago, and I bent down to tie my shoe right next to this wall. Tie my shoe. So stupid. What a stupid place to tie your shoe, next to a wall in a museum. And I popped up from tying my shoe, and I didn't. But I came maybe, my shoulder maybe came like 5 inches away from hitting a Picasso. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave the museum now.
Dude, I would have been scared.
Like
for my
I
life.
popped up and there was this painting like right here, and I backed up and I saw the little placard said Pablo Picasso, and I was like,
They honestly probably had it like drilled in a way that you couldn't knock it over if you wanted
I
to.
bet
but
every
still.
sensor in the world would
Yeah.
have gone off. Oh my
Bro,
god.
Another thing that fascinates me on this topic, because they have at the Houston Museum, is when you see like those ancient Egyptian or ancient Greek sculptures and stuff
Dude,
like
that's
that.
almost my favorite part of the museum.
Dude, oh my god! And then so if no one has ever seen like an Egyptian sculpture of like a pharaoh or anything like that in their life, go and see one as soon as you can, because it will change the way you look at history and what humans can do 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago.
I almost feel like
insane.
every human needs to.
You have to see it.
I feel like, dude, it just like something in you needs to see it. And it's like they have shit from the Romans, you know, like they have.
Well, they have those ancient Greek ones, which they predate Romans. Those ancient Greek sculptures they have, because that's where the Romans got all their ideas to sculpt. And when you understand what it took for them to do those things, it's like all math and geometry. They understood like pi. They understood like how to take perfect geometry to make the perfect human. They would. Insane. And then they would have, if you look at the muscle sculpture, like the way they would put the muscles, like the hip muscle with the butt muscle right into like and going into the spine, you can see like parts of this. So realistic. It'll like it would like a lot of those would really like trick you into thinking it's a real human if they had like actual flesh and like,
and we're talking
you know
about
what I mean?
so long ago.
Crazy.
They were able to achieve this with no fucking computer renderings, no, you know, dude, the fact that I've seen with my own eyes like artifacts from 4,000 years ago, 4,000, thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
It's just there. You can just go see it for $20.
Yeah.
Free on a Thursday.
Another crazy thing about some of those Egyptian ones is the stone they use, and I think a certain type of stone they would use is diorite, and on like there's like a hardness scale. I don't know if anyone's ever seen like the hardness scale, like from like 1 being like your fingernail until like 2 being like the. Like I don't know, like there's like a hardness scale of rock. And
when I was doing geology, we like were learning about the hardness scale.
Yeah. And so diorite is like probably like an 8 or 9 on that scale.
Right.
Like one of the hardest rock you can possibly try to cut into.
Right.
And they were making perfectly polished diorite statues of human faces. It's still unexplained today. I haven't seen one explanation for how they do that that makes sense to me. There's one that from an alternative theory I've heard, like maybe they use some type of acid that would break it down to like polish it, but it still doesn't explain how they would actually.
And it's like, why would they even choose to use that rock unless they
They had plenty of options to use for rock. I mean, they were bringing in rocks from thousands of miles away, all across the world. They had the Nile River. They were bringing rocks in from everywhere. Why use diorite? So like that's one of the things that's just like, whoa, one of those mysteries of history that's like 3,000-year-old rock that they didn't have to sculpt, but they made a perfectly sculptured human out of it. It's just insane stuff like that. It blows my mind.
They were in there using lasers and shit from the aliens,
dude.
probably.
So I don't know, man. But a lot of stuff is so fascinating.
Yeah, it's really crazy that I'm just really thankful that we have the access to see it.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. The
sure.
fact that you can go see that shit
in Houston, Texas, like
in Houston,
in Houston, Texas,
no
you can
hate
just go see
on
an
Houston,
statue.
right? But like we're obviously not like a marquee world city. Like we're not in New York or Paris. You know what I mean?
Sure.
The fact that you can just this fucking city here in Texas, you can go see artifacts from. It's amazing. And then I really enjoy like the African artifacts. Like shit that they've found from ages ago in like ancient Africa, and like little like human effigies and stuff from ancient fucking years and years ago. And it's so interesting to see like where we were at in different parts of the world. Like, this is the shit they were making 2,000 years ago in Africa. Here's the shit they were doing 3,000 years ago in, ancient fucking Greece or whatever, or whatever. It's just crazy, man. We've been such a insane species. And I don't know, man. I'm just really thankful that we have the opportunity to see all this.
Interesting, like when you see those different artworks from different cultures, that they all have like similar style. Like when you look at like a Mayan or Mexican artifact, you know that that's from South America. Like that's South American. You look like an African piece, like an African headdress or something, like that's African.
And you just know.
And it's like, isn't that interesting? Yeah. That like those certain cultures, they would have like, I don't know, it kind of plays into that kind of unconscious or like that archetypal like human aspect to ourselves, that like those cultures, like I don't know what it was about that culture in that time, maybe the environment they're living in, the animals they were seeing, the phenomena that was going on around them, that would shape the art they made. Because it wasn't like it was just one person, like one of the guys from the tribe or whatever or whoever, like, all right, I'm gonna make an art piece, and now like everyone just copies that one art piece. You know what I mean? It's like, how does
it's like, why were they all I know. And like, we're talking about people spread out over, like, you're looking at African art, and you're looking at art coming from countries spread out thousands of miles apart on this gigantic continent, and yet somehow you can see like echoes of the same style, the same like archetype of creation. It's like they weren't all fucking talking to each other. They weren't sending emails like, "Hey man, so I think when we do art, the faces should look like this." Yeah. How the fuck were they? It's crazy. Yeah. And now today in 2021, we can see that and go, okay, well, you know, I'm obviously not a fucking art student, but I know that this is Greek. Yeah. I know this is Egyptian. Yeah. Dude, it's crazy.
It is, dude. It's really fascinating. And another topic, which, I mean, kind of falls into art, which is architecture, which I know you're really big into architecture, especially like certain architects of the 19th century too, right?
I'm a huge fan of 20th century architecture, like mid-century. My favorite architect of all time is probably Frank Lloyd Wright. I think he's one of the most brilliant minds. And Eichler. Eichler and Frank Lloyd Wright are like two of my favorite architects. Yeah. Now, there's a few architect pages that I follow on Instagram. I am like perpetually amazed at the type of structures that we are still creating to this day. The idea of being able to like live inside of art. Like if you look at some of the shit Frank Lloyd Wright has built, it's just like,
he's the one they used some of his stuff for like Blade Runner and stuff like that.
Yeah. The original Blade Runner was filmed in a Frank Lloyd Wright house. Yeah. What is the name of the like ultra billionaire guy in the first Blade Runner? I know in Blade Runner 2049, Jared Leto's character is Neander Wallace, but I can't remember the fucking name of. Not Wayland, that's Alien. Whatever. The fucking like dude who owns the android company in Blade Runner.
I know what you're talking about.
In a Frank Lloyd Wright house, and it's just, it almost looks like it shouldn't exist outside of a movie, but you can go see it. It's in LA right now. You know, and he was building this shit in the 20s, in the 30s. Like he was building these fucking like spaceship houses in the Guggenheim in New York. That's Frank Lloyd Wright. Falling Water. I forget what state it's in. But like that does not look like some shit that was built in the 30s. It's like ultra modern. So I love mid-century modern, especially like Eichler houses with strong lines and then like lots of glass paneling and stuff like that. Seeing stuff like that and knowing that shit like that is possible really makes me hate cookie cutter neighborhoods. I hate when you're driving through like Katy or Sugarland and you'll see these sprawling subdivisions of just red brick houses that are just like...
You know what that reminds me of? Have you ever seen the show Weeds? It was on an early Netflix TV show. That came on Weeds. It might have been on another show.
Weeds was on HBO, I think.
I watched it on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. But originally it was on HBO.
Okay, it originally came on HBO.
Yeah.
Remember the intro song for it?
Yes.
They're like, little boxes on the hillside. And that kind of ends, it's like, and they all look just the same. Like, and that song, I don't know who sings that song, but like it really opened my eyes to like, damn, we're living in a world where everything is the same.
Why
like,
would
so weird.
Why would you want that? People are building new homes.
And a yellow one and a red.
Like my uncle lives in a neighborhood in McKinney. Yeah. And his house, 3 houses down, there's the same house.
Right.
And then like 2 houses down from that on the other side of the street, the same house. Yeah. And so it's like you have this neighborhood of 300 houses, and those 300 houses have 6 different floor plans. Right. And so they're like, and that just drives me insane.
Yeah. I mean, it just shows really where our culture is, because we do it with so many different things. Like, we have this corporate based, like just make everything the same, make everything taste the same. Fast food, the same burger should taste the same every time. Right. That all these houses should be built as it's like that's just like kind of how our culture has become, and you know, that's just the way it is. So like, I got fascinated in architecture was through ancient architecture, like ancient pyramids, and through ancient like Greek structures and stuff like that. Where I would look at like those buildings, because those were like, whoa, how did they build it back then?
Yeah.
Same thing with those statues, and like pyramids alone fascinate me. Like any pyramid from any culture around the world, pyramids are built in all the way from New Mexico to China to Africa to India. I mean, there's pyramids
And why
everywhere.
were they all building the same shape? Like, that's insane, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why pyramids? Why were civilizations that had zero contact with each other? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, so that blows my mind. And then a lot of the old Greek structures that were like built perfectly, like like perfectly designed to have a 90-degree angles at every corner. These giant marble slabs that they were using and stuff like that were just like perfectly aligned and leveled to the, like, stuff like that just blew my mind. And I was like, whoa. And like even to the stuff today is really remarkable, but it kind of makes more sense with like the kind of the science and stuff that we have and the capabilities to do those. So it didn't really like strike me the same when I looked at like ancient stuff. And but yeah, I'm just fascinated by it all though.
Yeah, and it's like, I think people see pyramids every day on TV or in movies or whatever, and then they see like ancient Greek architecture all the time. And for some reason, like 95% of the population not amazed by it at all. They're just like, oh yeah, pyramid.
Oh, another thing that blows my mind is the chapels and cathedrals that have been built throughout history.
Yeah.
Those things will.
Yeah.
Those are like psychedelic experiences. And the Islamic churches and stuff they built out there too. Mind blowing stuff, man. Oh, there's a new one being built. That one cathedral that's still being built has been built for like 100 years now. What is it in Spain?
The something family cathedral. It's in Barcelona.
Barcelona,
I'm pretty sure, but it's called the something family cathedral.
Dude,
fuck.
If no one has ever seen a picture of this, I don't know when it's scheduled to be done, but should be fairly soon, right? Like in the next like 20 years or so.
Yeah, Sagrada Familia Cathedral.
Dude, this thing looks like it came out of someone's dream, straight up.
And the texture on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, look at this.
It looks like a sandcastle that someone would build.
Yeah, look at that. That is insane.
It's not even. Yeah.
And the fact that like this structure, if humans still exist in 1,000 years, this is going to be like one of those structures that, you know, like we see buildings from 1,000 years ago or whatever. Like we look at the Acropolis or we look at like ancient cathedrals or things that are in like the Vatican, stuff like that.
Oh, this will be top of the top.
This will be like, oh, humans built this.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like
1,000 years from now, if this is still standing, it'll be one of the greatest buildings in existence. And I mean, it's one thing to like
look at that, dude. Look at that.
Yeah, we talk about like all the paintings and how incredible it is to paint, but like to actually like manifest something into a structural form, like. Because then now you're talking math, science, like you're talking, okay,
and
how
art.
the fuck am I going to put all this shit together
math,
in a way
science,
that's not going to fall down in 5 years? Yeah.
Math, science, art, and religion, all just like in a melting pot.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, dude.
Dude, it is amazing. And I like, even if you aren't religious, it's pretty hard to like deny the beauty that has come out of like religion. Oh, yeah. You know, like just like cathedrals and like religious art, it is amazing to see how inspiring religion can be on art. It's really amazing.
Well, I mean, we were just talking about the Renaissance. Like majority of those, probably like 90% of the paintings coming out of the Renaissance were all because of the Pope and the Catholic Church, who commissioned all of those paintings. If it wasn't for them, like we wouldn't have all those paintings. But they also were like, hey, we need religious art. Like you have to paint this specific scene, Mother Mary, Jesus, whatever. Yeah. And like that's all you could paint. So there was this balance of like, all right, you can have the finest materials, the finest paint that you could possibly find on the planet at that time, and be around the best artists of that generation, all in this one place to create these incredible paintings that we have today. But also the structure behind it, knowing that look, you can only paint these certain things, and so that, you know what I mean. It was. But that was because of religion, and you know we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for today. And then obviously the cathedrals, which wouldn't be here if it wasn't for religion. Like there would be no structures like that. Yeah. At all.
And I mean the art inside, like the Sistine Chapel. Yeah. You know, you just like, first of all, you're already in this beautiful structure, and then you look up, and just the paintings on the inside. Like I have to see this shit in person.
Oh, same, dude. Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah, and then there's what do they call the movements where people get together and they all there's a name for it. Drawing a blank on it. Like whenever a group of people will come together and they'll do they'll take a trip, like a religious trip somewhere. What is it called?
Oh, a pilgrimage?
A pilgrimage. So there's a ton of pilgrimages that go on every year around the world to these sacred sites or these religious sites where people come together, travel miles and miles and miles to get to a cathedral or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And it's like supposed to be this incredibly awakening or spiritual experience or moment.
Yeah.
But you're just going to a building. It's not like you're not like taking a psychedelic drug or doing anything super crazy. I mean, you're just going to a building, but this building brings something out in you.
Something spiritual is happening because of like the space that you're in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, like if I went to this cathedral, man, I would I'd have a spiritual experience
it's hard
too.
Not to.
Yeah. It's amazing, man. I think we're really blessed to live in a time where it's like possible to see all this art. Like I know like we can always just see it on the internet, but the fact that we have airplanes now and we can just like, I'll pop over to Europe and I'll spend 2 weeks just like looking at art and going to museums. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Things like, you literally have access. Obviously you need money, but you essentially can have access to almost any part of the world and you can just go and enjoy all the uniqueness that's there. Like you and me, if we like put some money together, we could go to Greece tomorrow and be there in like 9 hours. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like that's amazing.
For sure.
So hopefully you and me hit it big and then we can just like start doing this show
dude.
from.
Or I would love to even just go stay in hostels, dude. Like just go stay in a dirt cheap hostel and just literally all the money's just gonna go to a plane ticket and I'll just go live in a hostel for a week. You know what I mean?
You get the airfare out of the way.
Yeah.
And don't watch the movie Hostel before you go do that. Or Hostel 2. Holy shit. But yeah, I mean, you could essentially, if you get the money together for your airfare, you could go over there and like live for pretty cheap once you're there, hostel to hostel.
For sure. Easy.
You can move in between countries on the train and just like now that they're all unified as the EU, you can just pop in and out of, okay, I'm going to run over to Italy, then hop on this train, go to Germany,
Yep.
So
I would love, I probably am going to do something like that relatively soon. Like within the next like 5-10 years, I'm going to be going to Europe and doing some kind of trip like that for sure. Like without a doubt.
It's just like you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, how could you not? Yeah. My biggest fear is one day I'm gonna like look up and be old and realize like I've fucking missed my shot to do it. Obviously you can still do it while you're old, but I mean like if you have 4 fucking kids running around and like now you can't, you're locked into some super serious job that you can't take a month off of. I feel like this is honestly like the most important shit you can do as a human is like seeing and appreciating and like learning and taking all this in. This shit and nature, art and stuff like this, art, culture, and nature, if you can saturate yourself with that as much as possible in your time on this planet, I think you're solid,
Yeah, well, because ultimately, like, why? What's the reasoning you would want to do that when you can live a perfectly comfortable life where you are? But
sure. You could live in your brick house,
But I think ultimately it'll make you a more, like, humble, kind, compassionate person overall based on knowing, like your family, the human species around the world has done all these incredible, beautiful things for different reasons, right? Whether religion, science, whatever, the reasoning behind the painting, the art, the buildings, and knowing that like there's so many different levels to the human experience, and knowing knowing that these people were all striving for something greater than just this existence that we know.
And I always hear people say stuff like, maybe if like another crazy tragedy happens, we'll all be like unified again, and it's like, dude, if we all just took time to enjoy the human race, I feel like we would be so much more connected. Because every day, like we're so consumed with, okay, like all these countries have borders, and like these people are different from these people over here, and we're this country going to war with this country, and it's like, if everyone just stopped and for like 2 months, everyone on planet Earth just did nothing but learn about the human species and like look at art and go to cathedrals and like saturate yourself in nature and just like enjoy being a fucking earthling, like someone who shares this planet Earth and like just enjoying the human race, there's nothing to fucking fight about. Like we're literally, it's so fucking, war is so fucking stupid. Like us groveling down here like fucking stupid ants fighting ants from another fucking ant mound. Like it's so stupid. We are all a part of this insanely beautiful species that I think is inherently good and inherently beautiful and inherently creative. We shouldn't be fighting with each other, dude. We're all humans on the fucking dopest planet in the galaxy.
Yeah.
And like we literally live on a paradise planet, and we have been like gifted with the intelligence to create beautiful art and beautiful culture and food and like what the fuck are we doing?
Well, yeah, and another argument to help build that structure for your argument is like understanding, going back to the Renaissance paintings, the Pope was the reason why they would commission these people to paint, because there was a lot of people also arguing, and also they're doing this in Islam, is like any figure that was painted is like looked at as like adultery,
right?
Or like you know, idolizing some type of figure other than a god, right? That's some random pictogram like on a freaking painting, like why are you worshiping that? But like the church, so some of the Catholic Church and popes wanted these paintings to inspire people. Like they were like, okay, if we can get a good amount of people to see this painting of Jesus or whoever, it'll get them to lift their spirits and help them be more spiritual. Look at that and be inspired to be a Christian or whatever it was, like a good, genuine person. And I think that, like, knowing that, like a piece of art, just a little painting on a wall can do that for somebody. Yeah. Which it definitely has. I'm sure there's been millions of people who have looked at some kind of art one way or another and had like a spiritual moment. Like, wow, some type of beauty and salt, and like sparked something in them. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a pretty amazing thing, right? So
I completely agree.
Just knowing that alone, I think should inspire a lot of people just to go see, go to a museum, go to art, just go see it and experience it with no bias, no like, oh, all of the old painting, that's all weird and stupid. I want to go see the new shit, or all the new shit is too contemporary. I want to see the old shit. Just look at everything with a beginner's mind. Sure. And look at it and experience it for what it is, and I guarantee you're going to come away with a pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, like I didn't really know anything about Dali, but after I went to that museum, I literally came out of there feeling different. Like I just was like, you know what, dude, I want to just focus on living like a really fulfilling life and just appreciating stuff like this more. Like, if you saturate yourself in that type of an environment, if you go in completely unbiased, completely open-minded to just, like, what you're going to feel while you're in there, you're going to come out just feeling revitalized for life. Like, you're going to look at things differently. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame that more people don't know that, and hopefully more people will start to realize that.
No, I don't want too many people to go because I don't want them to get overcrowded. I like my little space when I'm in the museum.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. No, like, you know... No, I mean, like, I've been in museums where it's, like, really crowded, and sometimes it kind of takes away from your ability to enjoy it. So, obviously, I want as many people going to museums as possible.
Have you seen pictures of, like, the in Rome, and, like, in some of those places, those museums,
or, like,
where
the
it's
Louvre
just,
in Paris,
dude, jam-packed, shoulder to shoulder. Like, it would just ruin my experience,
and it's like,
you know?
Like, you're sitting there trying to look at the Mona Lisa, but you're having to, like, fight through just to, like, get a peek at it, and it's like...
Oh, I would hate that, but... Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there is some truth to that. Like, it does kind of detract from your ability to enjoy it if it's jam-packed.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's all good. Yeah, we'll have to go to a museum sometime soon. And, yeah, man, I think this was really good to talk about this. I feel like hopefully someone listening to this is kind of... I don't know. Using the word inspired feels weird, but hopefully someone listened to this and was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go look at some art tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm feeling fulfilled. I'm feeling really full of life. I'm gonna go get in a very small airplane in about an hour or two and chase my love of aviation and try my hand at flying.
Bro, you're about to be shot across the sky in a little metal box.
Little small metal box that's like smaller than this. But like the size of this room, essentially.
Dude, enjoy it, man. I can't wait to hear how it's going to be, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I might come back totally changed and be like, fucking, all I'm doing is flying now.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, like you hear about these guys that just like give up their occupation. I'm just going to go be a poet in the woods. Maybe I'm just going, fuck this. I'm just going to fly airplanes now. I don't know. Dude. But I just feel like, you know, you should chase what makes your heart happy and what makes your soul feel fulfilled. And so, I don't know, maybe that's a good note to end it on. Maybe we can just go out with, like, the message of chase what makes you passionate, do things that makes your heart happy, you know, go see art, go to a museum with a friend, eat some good food, listen to some good music, and just fucking be a human and stop arguing with people, right? I feel like that's...
Amen, brother.
Pretty good advice. So until next time, you guys, thanks as always for listening. I'm sorry again for making us miss last week, but we're going to try and get some really good guests coming up in the near future. Very excited, and I just love doing the show, and thank you guys for listening. It means a lot to me that you guys do listen. So stay safe out there in the cosmos.
Peace.
Bye.